Namaskar and welcome to NFL Masala. I'm your co-host Anant.
And I am your other co-host, Rakshak. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 35 of NFL Masala, where we talk about all the latest happenings in the NFL with a ton, no, correction, with a shitload of spikes. Because,
yes, sir. A lot has happened.
And you know what? I'll start it off like with a famous a professional wrestling quote that I follow from like AEW, WWE, and of course the legendary Brody Lee Jr. God rest his soul. It's Saturday, and you know what that means? One more day until the big game.
How are you feeling?
Man, I am nervous as hell because if I think about it, this is our third year of doing NFL Masala, and I could not have had the greatest co-host along.
Same here. Same here.
The crazy thing is this: the first time that we did NFL Masala, it was Chiefs versus Eagles. Third time of NFL Masala,
Chiefs and Eagles.
Round 2.
Chiefs and Eagles for the Super Bowl. Let's go.
And you know what? We have a ton of things to discuss, but what do we got on the agenda, my dog?
So today, as you guys all know, it's the eve of the Super Bowl. So we're just going to go through a brief preview of what's going to happen in the Super Bowl and have a little bit of the Makedar news because a lot has happened since we've had our last episode of the recap of the championship weekend. So now let's talk about some news. The first big thing that's happened, the NFL honors. It's always the weekend of the Super Bowl, right?
What is that?
Right. So the NFL honors is the award ceremony for all the awards that are offered throughout the entire year, like the NFL MVP, the Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, all those awards that we were looking at throughout the entire year, especially at the end of the year, that we had decided for the 2024 season has now happened, and that's what happens at the NFL honors ceremony. Also, the Hall of Fame inductees are also announced at that ceremony. And they're given their golden jacket. So we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yep.
First off, let's start off with some minor awards before we get to the big kahuna. Right? Minor awards. The FedEx Air and Ground Players of the Year, Josh Allen and Jamar Chase. I don't know why Josh Allen got the Ground Player of the Year. That probably should have been Saquon Barkley.
Or even Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
I mean, Jamar Chase, yeah, that makes sense. He's like the Triple Crown winner. So definitely. And then you got the Deacon Jones Sack Leader Award. That's Trey Hendrickson. The AP Assistant Coach of the Year. Surprise, surprise, Ben Johnson. Yeah, I don't think there was any surprise there. And then the Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year Award, which is known for the most community service oriented player, and that is Eric Armstead.
Hey,
49ers.
I like it. Who won Fan of the Year?
Huh?
Who won Fan of the Year?
Fan of the Year was a Lions fan, Megan Stefanski.
Ooh, Kevin. Kevin Stefanski, is that your relative? Because
I don't think they have any sort of relation.
But you know what? It doesn't beat Tom Grossi winning NFL Fan
No, it doesn't. No,
I mean, me being an Eagles fan, I was so freaking happy for Tom Grossi because he's worked his ass off, like making his content. And plus, 30 for 30, I don't think any fan can top it. It is not going to... I mean, anyone that's trying to do it, I'm sorry. Tom Grossi beat you to it. So just sit back, relax. That's fine.
Right. The only person that can outdo him is himself. And he did that. He did 5 stadiums in 30 days, international stadiums.
Oh, yeah.
In my
opinion, I think he needs to do Australia now because...
Right. Exactly. He's raised $1 million of charity in 1 hour or in 12 hours. of continuous streaming. That's insane, man. This guy, there's no stopping Tom Grossi other than himself. So kudos to him. Yeah, so Walter Payton Man of the Year, that's Eric Armstead. And then now we get into the big ones, right? Let's start with Comeback Player of the Year award. So typically that's given to the player who's come back from the most injury, like the season that has been affected most by injuries, and that's the previous season.
Yep.
But last year they gave it to Joe Flacco because, I mean, he wasn't technically injured, but he did come back to form in a system where he played 7 games and he was, pretty good at it.
Right.
But this year, they gave it to Joe Burrow. I mean, it makes sense. Technically, Comeback Player of the Year should be the person with who comes back from an injury. Joe Burrow did have a series of terrible injuries in 2023 that sidelined him for a long portion of that season. And he's come back and has thrown for the most yards the entire year, was an MVP favorite. So definitely makes sense. However, there was another player that was in contention for this award, and that was Damar Hamlin.
I thought that would have been Damar Hamlin, man, because the dude literally came back from a heart attack. He inspired he united a nation. What the hell has Joe Burrow done?
I mean, he gave Bengals fans hope. That's what he did.
In the words of Urinating Tree, when I listened to his the NFL debriefing, he's called Joe Burrow the Dan Marino of the NFL. All those passing yards, he ain't gonna win the big one. And you know what? Unfortunately, it can't happen because there's one roadblock or one biggest pain in the ass, and it comes from my school, Texas Tech University, Patrick Mahomes.
I think he's more akin to Drew Brees, right? Because Drew Brees has all the volume stats, but he only has 1 Super Bowl ring. He doesn't have that many playoff wins. And the years that he went, 7-9 or 7-9, excuse me, 6-9, 7-8, right? All those years that he had under Sean Payton, he was still throwing for 5,000 yards. So he didn't have a defense until late in his career. And the one Super Bowl run that they did have was in his prime in 2009. So I think a similar argument could be made for Joe Burrow, right? He has some offensive talent, but it's mostly on him and Jamar Chase. There's very rarely any defensive talent that helps the offense. The only time was in 2021 when they went on that Super Bowl run. So I think he's a lot like Drew Brees. And then if you were to compare Patrick Mahomes to Tom Brady, and then you compare Josh Allen to Peyton Manning, I think at that point. But yeah, regardless, Damar Hamlin literally died last year, came back to life, and then played at a pretty decent level for a safety who had come back from life. There's also J.K. Dobbins, who had, I think, 2 consecutive ACL tears, and he has come back and helped the Chargers to a playoff run. Sam Darnold, now he was not injured, but he would have followed Joe Flacco's footsteps of being a terrible QB who got into a new situation and performed extremely well. Yeah, right, to be one of the best players in the league, right? Yeah. And then Patriots cornerback Christian Gonzalez. So these were the 3 people these were the 5 people who had gotten first place votes. So in this case, technically Burrow has the better stats. He led the league in passing yards and touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
and the third highest passer rating, fourth in completion percentage. So, yeah. Also, he is the third QB in NFL history to have at least 4,500 passing yards, 40 touchdowns, while throwing for fewer than 10 interceptions, joining, and I believe I made this case already when I made Joe Burrow's MVP case,
Yep.
Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers in 2007 and 2011, respectively, where they both won the MVP during those years.
Yeah.
And he had similar stats. So, yeah. Alrighty. Comeback player of the year. Next up, coach of the year. Who do you think won here?
Coach of the year. I remember watching this and I was shocked it was Kevin O'Connell.
Why?
I thought it would have been someone like, I don't know, Dan Campbell of all that, or maybe even Dan freaking Quinn. That's saying a lot. But Kevin O'Connell, I can somehow see because with JJ McCarthy being out for the season, it's like, oh shit, there goes our starting QB.
Right.
How the hell is this going to work with Sam Darnold? And he was able to make the offensive game plan a lot simplified for Darnold and pairing him in the right system before they eventually collapsed and Darnold realized there are such things as ghosts in the NFL. I know it was way too late for that, but you know what? This really helped out Sam Darnold. So Kevin O'Connell solved that. Like how have you ever seen this kind of reminds me of one thing. Have you seen the musical Sound of Music?
Not yet. No.
Oh my, okay, you need to watch it. There's a song called How Do You Solve a Problem Like Maria? I think it's like, how do you solve a problem that's Sam Darnold? How do you not make him see ghosts or something like that? And Kevin O'Connell may have found that answer for him. And I think that was probably one of the reasons why, because we did not know what the hell this guy was coming into the draft. And now, fast forward up to now, he was below mid. And holy shit, you're calling him an MVP contender before. Oh my God, there are such things as ghosts. And oh my God, Jared Verse is about to kill me. So, Kevin O'Connell did the unthinkable. So, good job.
Yeah, that's why I thought he deserved Coach of the Year. So when you said you didn't see that, I don't know. That's why I was wondering who you think deserved Coach of the Year other than Kevin O'Connell.
But responding to that, if I wanted to find another Coach of the Year, I would have actually gone with Dan Quinn. The way that he was able to rebuild that Commanders team, being in that dumpster fire, that is a Dan Schneider era, how they were able to rebuild it, getting his coordinators in Cliff Kingsbury and Joe Witt, and not only that, doing the right thing by drafting for the future, by getting Jaden Daniels and the right pieces to support this offense and going with the style of defense. Now people can't be sleeping on them. And the way that we saw Jaden Daniels play and how Dan Quinn has coached this team, I thought Dan Quinn could be an easily Coach of the Year candidate. Just by that season alone.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, there are pros and cons to both, right? You got Kevin O'Connell leading a Sam Darnold led team to 14 win season, and not even getting the division, the NFC North division title because the Lions were that much better than them. But yeah, but then you got Dan Quinn leading that team with Jaden Daniels to the championship game, which is extremely difficult. Right? Not even Kevin O'Connell could have done that with Sam Darnold and the Vikings. So I could see that. I just think that given the if you were to look at the QB situation, we would have said that Jaden Daniels is a far better QB to work with than Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's why I think he deserves Coach of the Year over Dan Quinn.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, so he won Coach of the Year. Now let's get on to the rookies. The NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year. Surprise, surprise. Jaden Daniels.
If he did not win it, I would have called up. That would have been a riot.
Exactly. Racism.
It's a DEI thing.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
This is the one that I think you're going to be upset about. The AP Defensive Rookie of the Year is Jared Verse.
I actually wasn't surprised by it.
Okay.
Because here's my thing. The way can I find out that Quinyon Mitchell was second?
Mm.
I'm not too worried about it because here's the reason. Jared Verse has been getting sack after sack. The last time, I don't know when was the last time a cornerback has won Defensive Player of the Year. I think that was Derek Stingley, right? No. That was that was Sauce Gardner.
Pat Sertan, right?
No,
he won.
Rookie Defensive Rookie of the Year. The last time there was a corner, it was Sauce Gardner, and Sauce Gardner had 2 interceptions in the regular season. Had Quinyon been catching those balls, have been catching them, then he would have been in consideration. But
I mean, he had like 3 or 4 chances on the entire year, right?
And now, and now you want to play it in the postseason? Where the hell was that? And then I found out that Cooper DeJean was like number 4 in that one. So I'm like, you know what? This shows the level of improvement that Howie Roseman has done on this draft. Like, if you go back 2021, the first 3 picks, if I remember, was Devontae Smith, Landon Dickerson, and Milton Williams. Milton Williams right now, he's on the verge of he's playing for a big contract. And I'm like, I don't even know if we're going to pay the man. And
because you're going to have to think about paying. And I think this is the off-season questions for you guys.
Yeah.
Who do you pay as free agents? But yeah.
That is true. And then you look at 2022, the Jordan Davis, and then of course the trade heard around the world, AJ Brown, and then you had Cam Jurgens and Nakobe Dean. Jurgens right now he's a starting center. Nakobe Dean had a great year before he got injured in that Packers game. And then 2023, that draft, we had Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, and Tyler Steen. And I forget the 4th one. Shoot, I forgot. I could care less. But going with those 3 picks, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, that Georgia defense, that's been one of the biggest reasons why this Eagles defensive line has been improved a lot. Nolan Smith has taken another step in his career. And then, last but not least, this year, you look at Quinyon Mitchell, a.k.a. Quinyanamo Bay, locked down, don't let me go, get locked down. And then Cooper DeJean and I'm trying to think, who was the other one? Oh yeah, Jalex Hunt. Jalex Hunt, who I thought that was the worst pick that you could have made in the 3rd round, but apparently he's a good edge rusher, and he used to play safety in college before he moved to transition to defensive edge, and apparently he still has that speed. So we'll talk about more about like what we could be seeing, but I'm like, with seeing the way that Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell been placed in the Defensive Rookie of the Year, I mean, like, I wasn't surprised at Jared Verse because Jared Verse balled out. He is now a problem for everyone, and but I'm impressed with the way that Howie Roseman answered this draft, going with Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, knowing that a weakness is going to be on that defensive back. And I actually have some breaking Demarcadar news from the Eagles side. So I just heard that this after the Super Bowl, this is going to be Brandon Graham's last game.
Right, yeah.
And let's hope we can win this one for BG, man. And then also Darius Slay said that he wants to play one more year with the Eagles but he knows, like, hey, my time's going to come up pretty short. So I'm happy that Howie Roseman was able to address the situation. Like, hey, we're going to go start out with our youth. Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, and maybe in the future, we see Isaiah Rodgers come through again when the time has needed. And Keely Ringo. I'm happy with this though. But yeah,
Okay.
go ahead. I didn't mean to take too much time.
No. You're good. You're good. Yeah. So up next, offensive and defensive players of the year. Offensive player, not really that surprising. Saquon Barkley.
Easy.
I mean, easy. If he had played that last game, he probably would have broke the rushing record. But we'll see.
Yeah.
I think he still needs 30 yards in the Super Bowl, right?
30 yards to break Terrell Davis's
Yeah.
postseason rushes, which I think he could pull it off.
Right.
But he'll talk about it more.
You know, one of the main reasons why the Eagles are in the Super Bowl is because of Saquon Barkley. So definitely deserving award. And then the defensive player of the year is Pat Surtain.
I was shocked by that. I thought it'd been between Trey Hendrickson and Zach Bond. Because Zach Bond, Eagles linebacker, I mean, we didn't even know what the hell was it. But the way that he's helped with this, because I'll tell you this. In Eagles, there's 3 guarantees in life. Death, taxes, and being super ass weak in the linebacker position. Zach Bond, he's been making play after play after play, like fumbles, interceptions. He's basically one of the tone setters of this Eagles defense and a potential candidate. But I'm like, okay, what did Pat Surtain do? And I thought it would have been Trey Hendrickson attacking from the inside and being a disruptive pass rusher. I thought so too, but I'm like, okay.
So Pat Surtain had one of the best seasons a cornerback has ever had.
Yeah.
That's why he won this award. Because he intercepted 4 passes, 11 passes defended, a forced fumble recovery, and a tackle for loss in 16 games. And he was targeted on only 10.9% of his coverage snaps this season, which is the lowest amongst 83 corners with 300 or more coverage snaps. He also didn't allow receivers to catch up many targets, only 306 total yards allowed as the nearest defender across 516 snaps. So that's 0.6 yards per coverage snap, which is the second fewest amongst the same group of corners. So it's not like he didn't deserve the award over Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson did, was fantastic, but it's just like this was a historical seasonal performance for Surtain. So yeah, I mean, well deserved. Like, he's not just a man cover, he's also really good in zone. 46.6 passer rating in zone coverage, which is the lowest amongst corners via next gen stats. So yeah, I think he was 1 vote away from all pro honors as well. From unanimous all pro. So yeah, he basically deserved this award. That's for sure.
Okay, fair enough.
Final award before we move forward. The MVP, Josh Allen.
Not surprised.
Really? Not surprised?
I'm not surprised by it because it was basically a 3-way battle between Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Saquon Barkley. I mean, of course, Eagles fans would be like, "Oh my God, Saquon Barkley got it." It's like, hell, I'm on board the Saquon train. Had he played that final game and broken Eric Dickerson's rushing record for a season, he would have had the better chance. But the way that we look at offenses now, remember, the quarterback is that linchpin. Josh Allen's ability to change games with his legs, his frame, and his arm. Same thing with Lamar Jackson, but Josh Allen has made less turnover plays than Lamar Jackson has done. And that's how, and I think like that's one of the reasons why Josh Allen is like your MVP, and I'm not surprised by it.
Damn. Okay.
I think that's my thought behind it.
Yeah, but he's one of 3 quarterbacks who did not get AP All-Pro honors, like first team All-Pro honors, who won the NFL MVP award. The previous 2 were, I believe, Steve McNair and
Oh, Aaron
John
McNair.
Elway.
Man,
So
Steve
I mean,
McNair.
he's in great company there. That's
Yeah.
for sure. But yeah.
R.I.P. Steve McNair.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel so
Alrighty.
old now when I think about Aaron McNair.
Well, let's move forward then.
Let's do it because we're in the now. What do we got next?
You got
So,
next.
all right. So, with that being said, another set of the Makidar news regards with the two R's, the Rooney Rule, and apparently, the two original. This was by Zhuan Tai of ESPN. It was recorded today on February 8th, 2025. For those that are listening tomorrow, they said like two original founders of the NFL Rooney Rule told ESPN they agree with the commissioner that the league's efforts on diversity are bearing fruit, but there's more work to do. There is a gap in the offensive coordinator position, apparently. And of course, this is with the recent upticks in challenges to diversity efforts in businesses and government has added questions whether the NFL could back away from the Rooney Rule and whatnot. So, I mean, I get that, but he said regardless of what's happening, Roger Goodell said this in his pre-Super Bowl news conference. He said that the league remained committed to the Rooney Rule, not because it is a trend, but because it is the right thing to promote diversity. And first of all, I applaud Roger Goodell on that one, but I think again, you got to do better on it. And it's basically with the NFL offensive coordinators, the job that's most common stepping stool to head coaching. It continues to lack diversity, and they're saying as of now there are no black, no, pardon my correction, there are no African American offensive coordinators in the NFL. One offensive coordinator, Mike Kafka, is part Puerto Rican and attended the NFL Minorities Focus Accelerator program. And there's been a historic challenge when it comes to African American coaches in the offensive coordinating position. There's always been that shortfall, which I get. And I mean, despite its flaws, like the Rooney Rule is kind of working for like at some parts and whatnot. But I mean, and of course, like what out of the 7 head coaching vacancies this season has hired, one of them is Aaron Glenn, rightfully so, as the Jets head coach. And I thank God he's not going to be bowing down to Aaron Rodgers one bit. And of course, this is going to be a lot of challenge, especially with 2023. And I hate talking about politics to people, but we have to mention it in this one because 2023, the U.S. Supreme Court ended affirmative action in college admissions progress. And they've also, which has allowed more on the right to attack more on the DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. So the Rooney Rule could be one of those things that will be targeted most likely. But I mean, but let's see what happens. And I do hope that there are more African American coaches like that are trying to do well in the offensive coordinating position, because you know what, and this is my beat the dome moment right here. Diversity makes this NFL so damn good, man. Diversity is what makes this game special. That's what I'm not holding back on that. So y'all motherfuckers want to say like, oh, I'm being too woke or being too united. Quote The Rock, bring it, bitch. Bring it. Salty ass bitches. That's all I'm gonna say.
All righty. Well, those are some views, that's for sure.
No, I am Rakshak Iyengar, and I approve that message.
Okay. Well, some other news, and that is one of the founders, shall we say, of the NFL history and that is Virginia Hollis McCaskey, the wife of George Hollis, has unfortunately passed away, leaving behind a legacy of failure.
You made it so hard. You were making it so hard. I was like, oh, it's gonna go nice, and then you go, hell no.
No, let's not speak ill of the dead. I mean, she was, she was a legendary owner. Brought the Chicago Bears from the early, from I believe from like World War II all the way till the present day before she transferred ownership to, I believe, her son.
Mhm.
Sorry. Virginia was not the wife. Daughter of George Hollis. My bad. Yeah. So she carried her father's legacy. And they won that 85 Super Bowl there.
Mhm.
So that the Packers Bears rivalry is, always going to be there. A lot of it was fueled because of the actions and the leadership that she had shown for the Bears organization. But, she's also pretty controversial in terms of not doing enough for the Bears organization, but yeah. So she leaves behind a very, very complex and intricate legacy, shall we say.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Now it's rest in peace.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty.
Yep. And we do have to talk about the rumors. Myles Garrett wanting that trade. I know we talked about it, but I gotta ask you the question: which team trades for Myles Garrett?
Packers. Let's go.
What would
That's
you be
what we
willing
need
to
to
give
do.
up? What will you be willing to give up?
Jair Alexander. You can take him. We'll get Myles Garrett.
Whoa!
You take Ja Money. We'll take Myles Garrett. You can also take Rashawn Gary as well. Or Lucas Van Ness. He hasn't really worked out. So, yeah.
Damn.
We'll take him.
Okay. I mean, with that, I don't have any other I think we also mentioned like the Rams are going to be playing in Australia in the 6. And originally it's supposed to be the Eagles playing against versus the Rams, but apparently Jeff Lurie has already told the NFL ownership that like, hey, not going to work it out for us, so they were able to change it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still under the shock that my Dallas Mavericks fucking traded Luka Doncic away. Oh wow. Okay. We have some breaking the Makadar news. And this is just like 2-3 minutes ago, but according to ESPN News Services, longtime NFL and coach Dick Jauron, who led the Chicago Bears to the playoffs and was voted AP Coach of the Year in 2001, died today. He was 74 years old. And yeah, and the Bears confirmed his death, which came one day before Philadelphia, where Jauron briefly served as an assistant current Chiefs head coach Andy Reid. He was to play Kansas City in the Super Bowl in New Orleans. He was a two-sport star at Yale in the early 70s, drafted by both the Lions in the 73 draft and the St. Louis Cardinals in the Major League Baseball amateur draft. He decided to go with football. First 5 seasons in Detroit as a defensive back in Detroit, and 3 more with the Cincinnati Bengals. Pro Bowl selection in 74. He had 25 interceptions, including 2 returns for touchdowns and 100 career games with the Lions from 73 to 77, and the Bengals 78 to 80 before his retirement in the 80. And in 95, one note, he was hired by Tom Coughlin as the defensive coordinator for that expansion Jacksonville Jaguars team.
Mm-hmm.
And then he only had like 1 winning season as a head coach in 5 seasons with the Bears, winning the NFC North in 2001 before losing to the Eagles then coached by Reed in the divisional round. But yeah, his death came 2 days after the Bears announced Virginia Hallis McCaskey's death and all that. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. Alrighty. Rest in peace to him as well. Now, let's get on with the show. And that is talking about the Super Bowl. What have we got in store for us, Rakshak?
So, as we all know, we have two teams. On the AFC, we have the two-time defending Super Bowl champions as of now. The Kansas
Well, not
City.
two. I mean,
No,
three.
no, 2 times in a row.
Repeating, consecutive. Yeah.
Yes, the 2-time consecutive repeating in a row. Add whatever.
Yeah.
I'm an engineer, not an English major. Kansas City Chiefs representing the AFC side, and on the NFC side, we have your Philadelphia Eagles. Super Bowl 59 is the rematch of Super Bowl 57. This time, we're not playing in some sloppy-ass turf field in Arizona, but no, we're playing Superdome in NOLA, in New Orleans, Bourbon Street, the Big Easy, where there's actually much more better conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that, folks. And it's going to be a hell of a game. And today, we're going to be talking about some matchups. What to expect. What one team has the ball. How does that defense counter it? And we will break down as much as possible. Are we ready for this, Anand?
Let's get it.
Lead the way.
So, starting with offense and defense. So, the way that we're going to do this is a little bit more of a conversational style. We're not going to be so formulaic, but we're just going to go through some of the matchups that we're going to be seeing. So, specifically, we want to go through first how the Eagles defense is going to match up and, defeat, if you were, right? If the Eagles have to win, they have to win on defense as well.
Yeah.
But how this defense matches up with the Chiefs offense, what specifically the Chiefs can do when they have the ball, and what they can be countered with by the defense. So that's going to be the first one. And then the second one is going to be vice versa, where basically how the Chiefs defense can manage and stop this Eagles offense. More specifically, Saquon Barkley, but we'll get there. So starting with Eagles defense versus our Chiefs offense.
Because let's say this scenario. The referee, an unbiased referee, by the way.
Right, unbiased referee, as if we
because after all, during media week, all the reporters were calling out the Chiefs and the NFL. Thank you for your due diligence on the referees, on the favoritisms. I am so happy that they're calling out this bullshit because now all eyes are on them. Just like that one Tupac song, "All eyes on me."
Exactly.
And let's see, I'm a referee. Flip the coin. Eagles have won the toss and they defer. So, if the Chiefs start the ball, what do we expect, man?
Right. So, when the Chiefs have the football and when they're on offense, what should we expect from them? Well, not a lot of big plays, right? So, this team, this Chiefs offense, since letting go of Tyreek Hill, has rebranded themselves to be a Patriot, like old school Patriot style, dink and dunk, methodical, efficient offense where you gain 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 yards on every play, and then you bleed that the opposing defense with 1,000 cuts. That's what this offense is great at. It's great at creatively finding running spaces for their two running backs and Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt. They are creative in finding open spaces for Travis Kelce and Xavier Worthy. And they also have Mahomes, who's one of the best magicians when it comes to making plays
Or
out of
devil
structure.
worshiper. I'm calling him a devil worshiper on this one.
So he is the best
Yeah.
at making plays when necessary, right?
Mhm.
That's for sure. So when you have a potent cocktail of the best playmaker, the most creative offensive coordinator in the world, right?
Yep.
Head coach in the world, and when you have playmakers who can constantly get open if they're given the chance and do not make mental mistakes, this is the recipe for the style of offense that the Chiefs have made, which is they're not a big play team. They're number one in the league in terms of 10 plus play drives. So that means that they're not very explosive, right? Which actually, in my opinion, fits very well with what the Eagles do. The Eagles is also a great defense in terms of not letting up explosive plays, right? The Eagles,
Mhm.
Chiefs, Packers, Lions, they were some of the best, well, not Lions, but they were some of the best teams in terms of not letting up big plays down the field. So this is exactly what the Eagles would want to face, this type of offense. Now, if I'm the if I'm the Chiefs offense, even though I'm not a big play team, I
Mhm.
still would like to stretch this Eagles defense with some Xavier Worthy plays just to take some deep shots.
Yeah.
Just to take some deep shots, right? You don't have to make it so that you're, on 1st and 10 on every single drive, you're taking a deep 40-yard bomb, right? That's not the case. What you should do is you should, stick with your natural offensive scheme with it, which is, lots of easy passes to Travis Kelce, and playoff Travis Kelce is completely different than regular season Travis Kelce.
Yep.
And, you know, have a creative, which is what they do, open running game. But then use that as a way to maneuver or manufacture deep shots to Xavier Worthy. So I think they should just like the reason why I don't want them to go too much out of structure is we don't know how they would handle the number one pass defense when you're going out of structure, right? When you have the probability to make more mistakes.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Number one thing that I expect the Chiefs offense to do is to target Travis Kelce, right? Since 2018, Travis Kelce has 3,927 receiving yards against opposing linebackers in the Mahomes era, with 1,000 more, which is 1,000 more than the next closest player, right? In terms of just a pure receiver, not just a tight end, but a pure receiver. That's how potent he has been, and he is effective with Mahomes in the playoffs, right? He has a plus 185.7 receiving EPA
Yeah.
on targets against linebackers in the playoffs. And this is exactly what Travis Kelce does. He finds open spaces against zone coverages. He finds a way to maneuver out of man coverages and find ways to get the ball. That's what they do. So I think you just need to stick to that formula. You continue doing what has helped you so far in the playoffs. Don't try to change the script too much just because
Yeah.
you face a number one pass defense. Because for the Chiefs, right, their defense is, just as good as the Eagles defense in terms of generating stops. Right? They might not be on paper that good, but you have Steve Spagnuolo. So
And let me say this, adding on to what Travis Kelce can do, don't forget the Chiefs have weapons outside of Travis Kelce, Isaiah Pacheco, and Xavier Worthy. Don't forget, you have Marquise Hollywood Brown, Corvette, Juju Smith-Schuster,
mhm.
and DeAndre Hopkins. When needed, Like, because the thing is, they could be, I'll have one of those quiet days, but then when the time is needed, those guys can make that big play.
Exactly.
And that is the biggest concern. And especially in the linebacking position, there's one weakness I can tell right now, that Travis Kelce's going to have a field day. When you're playing zone defense, if you look at the previous Super Bowl, if you look at that Super Bowl matchup, Chiefs and 49ers, you had Dre Greenlaw. The minute he was out with that bad injury, I think it was Achilles or an ACL, Oren Burks had to step up. He was cooked, filleted, and put in a kebab skewered by Travis Kelce, who had 6 catches, almost 100 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
And guess what? Oren Burks is going to be facing him again, most likely, because with the injury of Nakobe Dean, this is going to be a big concern, because and I'll say this, there's one stat: the Eagles have only allowed 591 yards to opposing tight ends, which is the fewest.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a Super Bowl. Travis Kelce, if you're playing zone, you better pray to God that you have Travis Kelce covered.
Right.
One way or another.
You have Cooper DeJean. So I think what you would need to do, and I think you'll get this, is somehow find a way to make sure Cooper DeJean is always on Travis Kelce.
And with that, I've actually looked at and what the Eagles have done in preparation for this. They've actually had matchups in which they brought back an ex-Eagles legend in Brent Selleck, Super Bowl winner, and Brent Selleck, he's mimicking the Travis Kelce role. I saw some highlights where they're trying to put Cooper DeJean, and there's a possibility, try and put Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, try dropping a safety when you're playing, and maybe you go into that box strong safety role and then have Reed Blankenship step out. But then again, you're trusting your corners. No, but go ahead on this one.
No. That's it. I mean, but honestly, that's pretty much it for me. It's for the Chiefs offense, you stick to your own, formula for success, which is target Travis Kelce in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Be creative in the running game with Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco, and target Xavier Worthy once in a while with a couple of deep shots, especially towards the center of the field, right? Because the safeties are not the strongest for the Eagles. It's more their corners.
Right.
So
I will get to that. So let's get it out of the fact. Yes, Vic Fangio is 0-8 versus Patrick Mahomes, because the teams that he has had bad quarterbacks to work with.
Mm-hmm.
This time they have a potent offense to work behind, which can score. But now, and also I will say the number one pass defense, and the way that and as you mentioned, I think you beautifully mentioned this, the Chiefs are more of the death by 1,000 paper cuts. Eagles, this is the Vic Fangio scheme: bend but don't break. But my biggest thing, you have to win on all downs. The one thing that can set the Chiefs back is, remember, what are the 3 things that can kill any offensive drive?
Sacks, turnovers, penalties.
Those 3 things. And now, and the Eagles have to get the Chiefs behind the chains on all 4 downs. You have to make them use punt god Matt Araiza 150 times in this game. Because you allow 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6. Guess what's going to happen? We're going to do the same damn rollout, jet sweep, fake the run, and then toss options. It's the same damn thing. We've seen it before. And again, when you're trying to find a way to stop Travis Kelce, that's what I'm thinking. Do you go double coverage with Cooper DeJean and CJGJ, or do you put CJGJ on Kelce? And do you go with a 3 safety look? And I think if you go 3 safety look, you're working with CJGJ, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Reed Blankenship. Blankenship has been okay, but then that means you're giving up Cooper DeJean, and you're going to try and put in Avonte Maddox. I thought the Eagles did a good thing by not starting Maddox and then just putting in Cooper DeJean, because that's worked a lot in the slot nickel. So I have to see where the matchups are based off on. And then number 1, of course, stop the run. And I think this Eagles defensive line has that ability because you're going, and this is where I would say you have to go with the 4-man, 5-man traditional front. Do not blitz Mahomes. Whatever you do, there are 3 things that you don't do. Number 1, you don't tug on Superman's cape. Number 2, you don't piss into the wind. And number 3, you do not blitz Patrick Mahomes unless you're clearly certain you can tackle the man and cover every single one. For what I have to say, you got to go with the traditional 4-man, 5-man front. I'm saying you put Jalen, again, I think this is going to be the biggest matchup. How does this Chiefs the offensive line go up against the baby Rhino in Jalen Carter? And I think there is one weakness that I looked into. If you look, there is, and even if Jalen Carter's double teamed, guess what? You have your boy from UT, Mara Ojamo, Milton Williams, and don't forget Jordan Davis, who is an excellent run stopper. And I've actually noticed like Jordan Davis is like, he's not been like the number 1 pick living up to it, but he's been a great run stopper. And sometimes he's been able to get to the QB. I think he literally like walked towards Nolan to Chase Daniels and whatnot. And I would say this, the left guard to left tackle area where Joe Thuney has been the Kansas City's excuse me, where the Kansas City's like left tackle and Joe Thuney and Mike Caliendo. Those would be the 2 areas to watch out for because Joe Thuney has moved from guard to left tackle because guys like Wanya Morris, Kingsley Suamataia, and DJ Humphries not been panning out pretty well. So you could see some issues with that. And also, Thuney has been better than those 3 guys, but he's been kind of up and down. If you looked at that game against the Texans, Will Anderson had 2 sacks in that game when he was able to beat through them. And guess what? With Mike Caliendo attacking that left guard, you know who's sniffing blood? Jalen Carter. And you know how handsy he can get. Jalen Carter, please don't do any stupid mistakes. That's all I ask for.
Yeah, don't be a dirty idiot. That's what we're saying.
And then we have to talk about Jawan. And then, of course, Jawan Taylor. This guy, you want to know a stat? He's finished 2nd in the NFL with 18 penalties, 7 false starts, 7 holding calls, 3 illegal formation penalties, and 1 illegal use of hands. And I would say that, and because if he's lining up illegally and all that, remember, penalties are drive killers. And also at the left guard and right tackle area, guess what? The Eagles have speed in those rushes, especially with Nolan Smith and Josh Sweat. Nolan Smith, who's 2 sacks away from breaking Brandon Graham. And guess what? Brandon Graham will be playing in this game. But I think he'll take more of that bench role because Nolan Smith and Josh Sweat, that combination has worked out very well. They have the speed and they have that and they have that power. And your best way is to contain. Of course, get to Mahomes, but you have to tackle immediately. And then, of course, when you're talking about the run game, how Pacheco can run inside and outside, and especially like the zone trick plays, you got to expect a lot of jet sweeps and those dink and dunks. Tackling is going to be the key. Remember, if the Eagles, what they've done a lot better is tackling. They have to stick with that swarm mode mentality. Everyone gets to the ball, tackle first, and then you can try the peanut punches later. Don't go for the big turnover play. Tackle the guy first and get it down. And also, I'm very confident in Zach Bond playing in that coverage thing. But I wanted to ask you this. Do you think Oren Burks sticks to just Travis Kelce if you're putting Cooper DeJean, or do you make Oren Burks the QB spy? If you're going 4-man, 5-man rush, and you're having, and because the Eagles play somewhat of a 4-3, but instead you're having Nolan Smith or Josh Sweat as that linebacker in that playing those edges and like that 5-man front, and you have Bond and Burks playing those inside linebackers. So do you put Burks as a QB spy, and then you have Bond play coverage, which he's done pretty good with? That's what I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, I think whoever's the most athletic player should be the one to go after Mahomes because Mahomes has a way of being slippery mobile, right? He's not mobile like, Lamar Jackson.
Hmm.
He's mobile enough to move out of defenders' ways, right? He has just enough mobility and agility to, move out of defenders' ways.
Hmm.
So I think you need a person who's a surefire tackler and who's athletic and agile enough to tackle people in space, right? And not do it dirtily, right? You have to do it cleanly.
Right.
So, because, Patrick Mahomes is going to find ways to induce a dirty hit.
Right. And I think like and I think this is where the Eagles need to be careful on this one because and maybe I would not be surprised and here's the scenario. I would not be surprised if the Eagles decide to put in Jeremiah Trotter Jr.,
Mm-hmm.
who's a great excellent rusher and then just playing like that traditional like 3-4 linebacker or like that 4-3-3-4 and put in Jeremiah Trotter Jr. or you put in Jalex Hunt because Jalex Hunt has that coverage ability because in case like the Chiefs go for those trick plays, he can match up.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally to my Eagles defense of the way they can counter. If you're sticking with that 4-man, 5-man rush and a QB spy, this is going to be the biggest battle. The secondary, what do they do against this Chiefs potent attack? I think this is where I would say the outside corners stay where they are. I would love to see the matchup between Xavier Worthy and Quinyon Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
I would love that because remember, Quinyon and Xavier nearly hit both of them pretty much had like their fastest combines. And Mitchell is not someone to be, Worthy has the speed, but Mitchell ain't nothing to lack, man. He has been improving a lot. He's only allowed like so far this season, and so far this postseason, I think he's only allowed like one catch for like 7 yards, and he's had 2 picks already. And I have to say this, Xavier Worthy, welcome to Guantanamo Bay. And I would say if DeAndre Hopkins is starting on the other outside, I put Darius Slay on him. That'd be my best bet. And Cooper DeJean has to play that nickel slot role. And maybe you put in Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in one of those in maybe those slot roles. And if you're going to bring in a blitz, I say I'm okay with bringing in pressure and blitzes, but don't do the same thing over and over and over again. Like in one consecutive drive, I don't want 8-9 blitz plays.
Mm-hmm.
Just like time it properly and tackle the guy. And also, you got to make sure that you'll have the right set of people in that right system and right coverage. Because if you're putting like Noah Smith on an inside line against Travis Kelce and whatnot, it's not going to fucking work.
Mm-hmm.
So
you basically need to be perfect as an Eagles defense.
Yeah.
You cannot allow yourself to make mistakes. Otherwise, the Chiefs offense is going to take advantage of that.
They will take it. Yeah, 100% on that. And another thing I want to mention is, and I know we'll talk about this later, but you got to talk about special teams pretty soon because I realized a couple of big things that can happen. But we'll talk about that later. But yeah, this is what I think about the Eagles defense. Basic 4-man, 5-man run, front tackle behind the chains, tackle first, and then go for the turnovers and the sacks. Like you have to and play smart. Don't play stupid. And I think the Eagles have the talent to stop the Chiefs from like consecutively scoring over and over and over again. But they have to be intelligent about it. And if the Chiefs are going to go death by 1,000 paper cuts, we're okay with bend but don't break. But don't let them score touchdowns. You hold them up to field goals or punts or even turnover on downs or even those drive killing options. I'm perfectly fine with it. But it's going to be, again, it's a tale of matchups. Because I think with the way that this Chiefs unit I think the Eagles have the players to match up skill by skill level on that. Except for Mahomes and the QB position, because Mahomes is on another level.
You can't. It's a very low likelihood that you'll stop him enough times.
But if you can make key stops,
Mm-hmm.
and the Eagles are able to take advantage of it with touchdowns, not field goals, then we should be good to go. That's just
Mm-hmm.
my take on it.
Alrighty. Well, now for the other half.
We got to talk about we got to talk about. I think this is going to be the biggest matchup.
Right.
How does this Eagles offense go up against Mr. against Steve Spags or Steve Spagnuolo,
Greatest defensive coordinator of all time.
the disciple of one of the greatest Eagles defensive coordinators, and Jim Johnson, God rest his soul.
But yeah, so let's start with you this time. How do the Eagles offense? What can we expect from them?
Eagles offense. Remember I said there's a formula that we like to do. It's called keep it simple, stupid. or let's, in this case, keep it simple, Sirianni.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is where Kellen Moore, Eagles offensive coordinator and potential New Orleans Saints head coach, because I'm hearing the rumors that Kellen Moore may leave for the Saints job after this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Eagles need to put a ban. You're going to sign a 5-year contract and you're not leaving. Because stop taking our coaches, damn it. But I will say this. To stop this Spags defense, there's one thing that the Eagles offense has done when they were on that winning streak. That's to run the ball through Saquon Barkley. And you're going, and I'm going to say this. The Chiefs expect them to stack the box because they're going to try and sell out to stop it. But you know what? I say let them, because the last 3 games the Eagles have faced off, and I mean the last games, like, the Eagles have faced off in the running attack, like especially against the Eagles have faced off against like so-called running run stoppers, like in the Bucks and 2 other teams. Saquon was able to get some big chunks out of it. He was almost averaging like I mean, so far in this postseason, Saquon Barkley's almost had like 100 rushing yards, and past 2-3 games, 2 to 3 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
So if Saquon Barkley goes for one of those long balls for a touchdown, I think it's gonna be game over, because now the Chiefs will have to find out how to stop that run, and unless they can't beat it, just keep on running it with Saquon, because you have this top offensive line with the run. And I will say this: run the ball from 11 personnel.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason behind it. I mean, Philly uses 11 personnel in 81% of its snaps. This according to Warren Sharp. In this postseason, quarters 1 through 3, Saquon Barkley is getting 6.9 yards per carry out of 11 personnel, 5.2 yards per carry out of 12 personnel. So, and one of the biggest reasons for that 11 personnel, one tight end, Dallas Goedert. And I think having that, and unfortunately, the Eagles don't have another run blocking tight end other than Goddard. So this is something that they may have to look in the offseason or in the draft. And passing wise, you got to go death by 1,000 paper cuts approach and expect Spags to sell out. Chris Jones is going to attack the interior, especially with Mekhi Becton and Cam Jurgens, because Cam Jurgens, he's not that much of a he's not Jason Kelsey. Let's say that. And I would think and I would expect like the Chiefs will try and run more of a 2 gap style of defense. I've been trying to understand like what that is. So Professor Anand, can you give a brief explanation of what we can expect from a 2 gap?
Sorry, what?
A two gap defense or something.
I don't know.
Okay. Basically, it's like, I kind of understand it's like the defensive line plays square on the line of scrimmage. They rely on the secondary level, like the second level defenders, like right linebackers and their defensive backs, to like stop those plays, to like block those running attacks. But I say in Saquon we trust, run the damn ball through them. And especially if you're and one thing I've seen a lot, like in the past 3 games, And another thing, especially if you're seeing a lot of press man coverage that the Chiefs will try and bring in, I like our chances a lot more. Because here's my thing. I imagine Trent McDuffie versus AJ Brown. If it's a one-on-one matchup, AJ Brown is winning it 99% of the time. And he will have that inner excellence for that. See what I did there with the book?
Mm.
And I think like he's one of the, but I think like it's gonna be a fantastic matchup because Brown has the size, and the Chiefs are also kind of weak at the slot position. So guess who may eat a lot more? You got not just AJ Brown, you have Devontae Smith, who's, I believe there's a stat. The 3 games that Devontae Smith has faced off against the Chiefs, especially Spagnuolo defense, he's been averaging about like 100 receiving yards at best. I mean, and his yards after catch, his yak ability. There's a reason why he's skinny Batman for sure.
Mhm.
And I think, and attacking those areas, especially the zones. But I would keep an eye on those Chiefs 3 linebackers. I think Drew Tranquil, Nick Bolton, and Leo Chanel. And I think and again, Devontae Smith, attack from the corners. If he's able to do that, that'd be awesome. And of course, Dallas Goedert, the Chiefs defense is weak against tight ends so far. And I mean, Dalton Kincaid, he has to catch it, but I think Goddard's a better catcher for sure because he's been there longer. And I think but I also would like to see and again, I would like to see the Eagles go more varied, especially when I saw up against the Commanders. I like that I saw Jalen Hurts run plays from the center, use a lot of using tons and tons of motion, especially and then of course you expect there's and I know you're gonna bring this on, and I don't mean to override you on this one a couple of times, but you're gonna expect Spagnuolo to blitz. It's going to happen. You just don't know when. Because there'll be a moment where Spags will put in 8, and all of a sudden, some people come back. You got to anticipate for these types of plays. You have to have those hot routes ready.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a goal ball to AJ Brown, just don't do it on a 4th and 5 because I liked it was better against the Commanders, but the Chiefs is a different story. You have to win on 1st and 2nd downs. And 3rd and 1s and 4th and 1s, push that son of a bitch already because no one can stop it. Not even a flying. Oh, I think. Whoa! I think Frankie Luva just flew over me. But I would say get the crosshairs, mesh, stacks, like those receiver stacks. Get a lot. I mean, if you can get the screen game going without a penalty, that would be great. And Jalen Hurts, he has to throw it quickly. But if he's able to get time and he sees a guy open, take it. And if there's a proper QB design run, go for it. But don't hold on to the ball way too long. Throw it away. Take the sack. And yes, there will be times that the Chiefs are going to force turnovers. If it's an arm punt on like a big 3rd down, I'm okay with it. But on the 1st and the 2nd play, just don't turn over the ball, man. That's all I ask for. Just throw it away quickly and attack with the hot routes. That's all I can think of. Anant, you are now Steve Spagnuolo.
Yes.
What do you see and what do you do?
Somehow I'm Steve Spagnuolo.
You're the Brown Steve Spagnuolo.
Yeah, exactly. So the way that I would try and attack this Eagles offense, first, obviously, is to try and stop Saquon Barkley. But the problem is when you try and stop Saquon Barkley, it opens up the passing offense for the Eagles, right? It opens up all of the other players, and we've seen that consistently, right?
Yeah.
So I think the closest anyone has gotten to defeating the Eagles offense is the Rams. So how were they able to defeat or almost defeat the Eagles, right? I think they were the only ones. And then the Packers, obviously. The Packers also held the Eagles to 22 points, right? So how were those two, defenses able to stop this Eagles offense? Now, mind you, both of those defenses still allowed Saquon Barkley to go for more than 110 yards ish, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he had like two 60-yard plus touchdowns in the Rams game alone. So the only way to try and limit the explosive potential of this Eagles offense is to not focus on the running game, but rather the passing game. If you force the Eagles to only run the football and limit the amount of passing potential that they have, then it's easier for you to limit the total score to be like less than 30 points, less than 25 points, which is I believe the ideal score for this Chiefs offense. Right? If the Eagles score more than 25 points on offense,
Mhm.
it's going to get dicey for the Chiefs. It's going to get dicey for the Chiefs. So if I were Steve Spagnuolo, I would constantly run 4 to 5 man pressures on Jalen Hurts up the middle, force him into sacks, just like the Rams defense did, right? From the
Mhm.
outside, use Chris Jones across the line, force Jalen Hurts to remain in the pocket and not move out of the pocket, because that's when Jalen Hurts can use his rushing ability and scrambling ability and get away from players. Keep him contained in the pocket, force him back, and force him into sacks. When Jalen Hurts was pressured this entire season, right?
Yep.
He was the worst quarterback in terms of EPA per attempt. And this is passing, right? Worst quarterback in terms of success rate. 33rd out of 37 quarterbacks in terms of sack rate, which meant that he was more often than not taking a sack when pressured. And we've seen that in the playoffs, right? Especially against the Rams. He took 7 sacks? 3
Yeah.
of them were out of field goal range, and another
It,
one that got them the
yeah.
safety, right? So
Yeah.
you look at what the Rams defense was able to do from a pressure standpoint on Jalen Hurts. That's exactly the type of formula that Steve Spagnuolo needs to replicate, right? Pressure Jalen up the middle, keep him contained. And because of the massive regression in his uh in his ability to evade sacks, last year he was top 10 in all these stats with the
Mhm.
worst offensive coordinator, by the way, right? With the worst offensive coordinator, he was top 10 in the league when evading pressure. This year, he is not. He's not the same quarterback that was the one of the main catalysts for that 2022 Super Bowl run.
Right. And I
Right?
think like the reason being is because like after that bye week in which like the Eagles got absolutely cooked by the Buccaneers, I think there was like a meeting in which like Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata like walked up to Nick Sirianni. There was reports about this, and they said, "Hey, we got Saquon Barkley. Let's try running the ball with him." And the Eagles became more of that run-oriented thing, and it made life a lot more easier for Jalen Hurts. Just like he just needs to be that prototypical, like people are gonna hate me when I say this, but be the game manager. Don't make mistakes. You can
Right.
run you could run, you could throw it. Just don't do stupid shit. That's all I
Right.
ask.
Right. Agreed. So I think the key is if I'm the Chiefs defense, the key is to get Jalen Hurts on the ground, right? Especially when he's passing under pressure.
Yeah.
So something else that could help with this is to have more man coverage with 2 guys constantly locked up on AJ Brown, and then having rotating coverage on Devontae Smith, right?
Mhm.
If you have those 2 people locked down by your corners and safeties, and if you have Saquon Barkley, Saquon Barkley, he is who he is. It's going to be nearly impossible to contain him to be under 100 yards of rushing and to stop this Eagles passing offense. You're going to have to choose either or. So in this case, focus your attention on the wide receivers and the tight end. And as long as the Chiefs offense continues to score points, it's going to be an uphill battle for the Eagles defense. It's going to be an uphill battle for the Eagles offense. There we go. Against this Chiefs defense.
Yeah.
And we all know like you said, that exotic blitzes are a specialty for Steve Spagnuolo, right?
Mhm.
He is he is the master of dialing up the right blitz at the right time. So I think there is definitely a scenario that the Chiefs don't do a good job of containing this Eagles offense, but for them to win, I think they have to maintain um, pressure on Jalen Hurts and maintain coverage on AJ Brown and Devontae Smith.
Mhm.
That way, if you do allow Saquon Barkley to go for 100 to 150 yards, you can still have um, you can still have the ability to score more points on offense by turning over or actually you limit the amount of possessions that the Eagles offense has to score points.
Mhm.
So I think it might be, and this is we're going to get into this after this one, but I think this game is going to be that type of game where there are only like 10 to 15 drives across both of those teams in the
Yeah.
entire game because of the way the two defenses work. So
Mhm.
yeah.
I would not be surprised by that. And I think like it's gonna be, you know, like how we say death by a thousand paper cuts.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be a bad joke, but who cuts the other person the most? God, it feels like I'm an it's like basically like an emo written lyric
Mm-hmm.
song. But yeah, it's like which team can like literally play. But yeah, I mean that's how I would approach this game. Both sides. Which team can make the fewest mistakes, go on those long drives, controlling the clock. That's going to be key. Time of possession is going to be the key thing.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. I think that's it. Do you game time predictions?
Yeah, I have two predictions I'm going to say. With my heart, I'm saying the Philadelphia Eagles put belt to ass 42-20.
Wow.
In my heart.
Okay.
But in my mind, the Chiefs are winning this 27-24. It's going to be some bullshit. Harrison butt licker kisser is going to kick the field goal. And yeah, and Mahomes will do some stupid shit. Eagles will play very well, but the three-peat's it's inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
But in my heart, I'm so effing proud of this team. Fly Eagles fly. We're fucking winning this. 42-20 in my heart. We have belt to ass.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll be the best birthday present, by the way.
We'll see. We shall see. I think for my game predictions, I think it's going to be Chiefs 3-peat victory.
Yeah.
I just think there are too many forces going against the Eagles. If I had more confidence in Jalen Hurts, I think I would have predicted him. But to me, I think they're too reliant on Saquon Barkley. We just haven't seen enough explosive potential from the Eagles passing offense. Like the only time we've seen that is against one of the worst passing defenses in the Commanders. But also
Yeah.
that's when like the game was basically done. Saquon Barkley had like 200 yards of rushing.
Pretty
Right.
much.
And you guys had like 5 rushing touchdowns.
Mhm.
Even against the Commanders, the passing game was
It
not
was
explosive.
because I think Saquon Barkley just took over that game and we
Right.
didn't even need to pass the ball, so probably why.
Right. So because of how it's kind of like, I don't want to say it this way, but it's kind of like damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like if Saquon Barkley wasn't as effective, you
Mhm.
guys would not have gone to the Super Bowl. But because he's so effective, we don't know that much about this Eagles passing offense, right?
Right.
Especially if the unlikely scenario happens where Steve Spagnuolo somehow creates magic to limit Saquon Barkley, then everything is on Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. And that's my biggest
So-
worry. It's like, I mean, Jalen Hurts, he can make those plays because he's been in big moments before. But
Right.
it's like, can he do it again?
Right.
And
That was 2 years ago where he made the big plays. This year, he has not consistently made the big plays. In fact, in big moments, he's gotten, you know, pummeled.
yeah,
So,
unfortunately.
yep. Alrighty. That's it. That's gonna be it for us today. If you guys have enjoyed, please leave us a review at one of the 4 podcast platforms that we host our podcast on: Apple, Google, Spotify, and Pocket Casts. Or Rakshak.
We're also on YouTube, so make sure you like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. And also, we are on our following social media platforms: Twitter/X, Instagram, and Threads. At all lowercase at NFL Masala 2022. That is all lowercase again at NFL Masala 2022.
And we're gonna hit you guys with our signature outro. Fly, Eagles, fly.
And from me, we all we got, we all we need. Fly, Eagles, fly. Let's bring the Lombardi to Philadelphia and grease those poles. EAGLES, Eagles. Let's go.